Today we're going to start the death penalty trial of Jose Antonio Soto-Escalera, who allegedly killed his pregnant girlfriend, Tonia Wise, in order to keep his affair from being discovered. Here's what we're talking about today. Jose Antonio Soto-Escalera is now on trial in St. Lucie County, Florida, charged with the brutal murder of his mistress, 23-year-old Tonia Wise, and her unborn child. Wise was nearly 9 months pregnant when her body was discovered in a drainage ditch alongside a road in August of 2018. The medical examiner found she had suffered a skull fracture and multiple hematomas from blunt force trauma. A long 19-centimeter cut sliced across her neck, severing her jugular vein almost to the spinal cord. DNA testing later confirmed that Soto-Escalera was the father of Wise's baby. Prosecutors allege that he killed Wise to keep his affair hidden from his wife and to avoid the responsibilities of a child. They say Wise asked him for money for an abortion. He allegedly gave her the money, but then Wise never went through with the procedure. Instead, she kept the pregnancy, even naming the baby Hosea Thomas and scheduling a C-section. Investigators point to internet searches on Soto-Escalera's phone, queries like dead body in woods, as evidence of premeditation, which I think is pretty good evidence of premeditation, frankly. The state is seeking the death penalty, arguing that the crime was heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that it was carried out in a cold and calculated manner. But the defense paints a different picture. They argue that Wise was involved in escort work, and she had relationships with other men, including a longtime boyfriend and others who were questioned by police. They suggest these unsavory characters could have been responsible for her death, and point out that investigators collected DNA from several men connected to Wise. At trial, jurors have already heard from Wise's mother, who described the daughter's plans for the baby and the excitement she felt as her due date approached. They've also heard from other witnesses, including the person who discovered the body, as well as somebody who saw a suspicious truck on the roadside the night she was killed. As the trial continues, the case will hinge on whether the jury believes the prosecution's version, or whether the defense can raise enough doubt by pointing to other possible suspects in Wise's complicated personal life.
I have to do it, Eric. I have no other choice. I'm going to lose everything. If my wife finds out something like that, oh my God, bro, I'm going to lose everything. Bro, I have a spot. I have to find a spot where I'm going to dump her. I'll throw away all the clothes, or I'll burn them, or I'll wash them with Clorox. Those are the words from the defendant in this case on August 21st, 2018. The evidence will show you that Jose Soto-Escalera, the defendant in this case, he had a problem. He had a big problem. And he needed to find a way to get rid of it. He had no other choice in his eyes.
I think that's a fairly powerful way to start off an opening statement, using the defendant's own words, where he's talking about basically planning this murder and how to dispose of the body in a place where they'll never find her. Of course, best laid plans, or maybe even the worst laid plans, don't always go the way you expect them to, and that's not quite how things worked out for Jose. But at any rate, it looks pretty bad at least from this part. They already have premeditation and planning, and we'll have to see what the rest of the opening is like.
On August 21st, Tonia Wise was a mom. She was 38 weeks pregnant, and she had no idea that this defendant was carefully planning out her murder. You're going to learn that the defendant in this case, he worked for Waste Pro. He was a garbage truck driver, and he worked with his nephew on the garbage truck. And the reason we're going to know and hear how he planned out this murder is because he did it on the garbage truck while they're driving around, picking up trash, doing his route. But what the defendant didn't plan on is that it's all recorded. There's video, there's audio, and even though they talked in Spanish, everything is going to be translated in this case, and you're going to hear the defendant as he drives around on his trash route trying to figure out where he's going to get rid of her body, where he's going to leave 38-week pregnant Tonia Wise for dead, how he's going to kill her. Let's go 2 days later. That was August 21st, 2018. Let's go to August 23rd. That's the date of the murder in this case. And it's a normal day for Jose. He's driving in his garbage truck and he's planning out a murder. He cannot let his wife know that he got another woman pregnant who's now 38 weeks. He's running out of time. She's getting ready to schedule a C-section. She's going to have this baby, and he cannot let that find out because he's going to lose everything. That's all he cares about. What's going to happen to him? Not that he's going to kill a 38-week-year-old pregnant mother. That doesn't concern him at all. And he's talking casually in this car to his nephew. You think I should choke her? Or would it be better if I just do a big blow and it's all over with really quick? And then he tells him, you know what? She's not the type of person that anyone's even going to look for. They're not even going to look for her. They're not going to worry about her. You know what? If they don't find anything within the first 48 hours, they're never going to find anything. Well, despite the defendant's planning and discussion over and over again of where he's going to do it, which way he should do it, how he's going to commit this murder, he made some mistakes. And on August 23rd, you're going to hear from the victim in this case, Tonia Wise. You're going to hear from her mother, Elizabeth Bedolla. She is helping Tonia put her son to bed that night, and then Tonia leaves the house. The last time she sees her daughter alive is sometime after 8 o'clock on August 23rd, 2018. She doesn't know exactly where her daughter's going. She thinks she's just going out for a little bit. Tonia didn't have a car. She didn't have a way to go anywhere, and you'll learn through the recordings that the defendant, part of his plan was to lure her out, to get her out of the house, and then to take her somewhere to murder her. So that's August 23rd. That's the night of the murder. And you're going to learn the defendant, he goes, he picks her up, and then he takes her out to complete his plan.
If that's the evidence that comes in at trial, it's going to be devastating for the defense in this case. But they have a different plan. They're not going to challenge the evidence of guilt so much as challenge the integrity of the investigation. That's a common theme in criminal defense cases. A lot of times you say, well, the police rushed to judgment. They didn't thoroughly evaluate all of the potential defendants in the case, and doubtless one of them actually did it. But of course, none of them are on audio and video planning the murder, nor are they on audio and video discussing how they're going to do it and where they're going to dump the body. That just is that's one of the problems you have when you work to try and commit a crime of this nature. In this country, it's almost impossible to get away with murder. I mean, people do it, but it's very, very difficult to commit the perfect crime because no matter how smart you are, no matter how good you think you are, you're going to miss something. And it's almost always going to be something that you shouldn't have missed. But let's see how the prosecutor ends his opening statement.
As he had planned it out, he said, I have to do it, Eric. I have no other choice. You're going to hear some additional evidence that even though that evening he's going to tell law enforcement what he did and where he went, and the cell phone evidence that's going to introduce in this case, the cell phone tower evidence, it's going to show that's not correct. That's not where he was. The evidence is going to put him out at the scene of the crime. It's going to put him near that area where this crime occurred out on Lucie Road. So throughout the trial, listen to the evidence, use your common sense. But when you go back and you listen and you watch and you hear what is said on these recordings, and you consider what the facts are, that the fact that this was his child and that he lied about it and that he hid it and that he then planned this murder for multiple days and then he carried it out, at the end of this trial, you're going to find the defendant guilty of both first-degree murder of Tonia Wise and first-degree murder of an unborn child, because that's what the evidence is going to show. Thank you.
So that's a pretty good closing. It's a B minus, I would say. Not very much passion there. Not a great deal of righteous indignation that this young lady has been taken in the prime of her life and that her unborn child did not ever have a chance to grow up and become a man. All of those things, I think he kind of missed some of the more emotional aspects of it. But it could be that he's thinking, well, I don't want to invite an emotional response because they're going to claim that the jury acted emotionally instead of logically. And so we're going to try and keep the emotion out of it. I don't know. It's a tough call for prosecutors, I think, sometimes because a lot of times, particularly in a heinous murder like this, you have to get some emotion into it. And I just don't think he had A level emotion. B level, maybe, I don't know. You guys have to tell me. But now, let's look at the defense opening statement. And I'm going to play the whole thing because I think you'll agree with me that it isn't very long.
Unfortunately, the profession that Miss Wise was in, a dancer and an escort, brought her into contact with many unsavory characters. And what you will learn in the days following the discovery of her body, law enforcement got DNA samples from many men, not just my client. They got a DNA sample from a gentleman by the name of Mark Burke, who she was involved with and was her longtime paramour and pimp. They got DNA from a person named Bradley Rodriguez Jr., who was also her longtime boyfriend, who had been kicked out of her mom's house because he was violent with Tonia in front of her mother. They got DNA from a gentleman named Eric Alvarado, who is my client's nephew. And they got DNA from a person by the name of Giovanni Alvarado, who dropped Tonia off on the night that she was murdered. You will also learn that Miss Wise had told Bradley Rodriguez Jr. that he was the father of her son. And you will learn that she also told Mark Burke that he was the father of her son. It was in this fraught situation that her untimely demise occurred. And the judge is going to tell you, when we talked about it during jury selection, that reasonable doubt can come from the evidence, lack of evidence, and conflicts in the evidence. I'd ask that you use a discerning ear and eye during the course of this trial and listen to not only the evidence that you see and hear, but the evidence that you won't see and that you won't hear. And I have no doubt that at the close of the evidence, you'll have no other alternative but to find my client not guilty of both charges. Thank you.
Okay, if that's her theory of defense, she gets an A plus on the opening statement. Short, to the point, throws up the names of the alternate suspects, says, don't just look at their evidence, look at the evidence they don't show you, which is kind of ridiculous because they obviously, if they had evidence, they'd show it. And as a result, I think she does a pretty good job of saying, this is how we're going to defend the case. We're going to contest some of these facts, and we're going to do our best to essentially say that they don't have enough to prove that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. As between which of those two sides I would like to be operating on, I would definitely like to be operating under the prosecution's set of evidence as opposed to hers. Tell me what you think about these openings. Were they effective? Were they useful? Do you think the jury learned anything in the course of the defense opening? I mean, clearly they learned almost the entire case of the prosecution. Did they learn anything in the defense opening? I don't think there's any new facts other than those names that she threw out. And of course, even though the police got DNA for them, they didn't arrest any of them, and their DNA didn't match the baby's DNA. So, again, it's I can see where she's going here, but I think she's got a pretty long road to hike in order to get where she's going. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, Try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke, get them a cup of coffee, anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.